Welcome to Real Black Consciousness Forum. I'm your host, Big VJ on the check-in. Please give yourself some love, man. Give yourself a round of applause. Please give yourself a round of applause. This is definitely Black life, Black world, and a powerful Black universe again. Give yourself some love, family. Please, let's do it. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you guys so much for viewing, all right? I definitely appreciate it. Today's subject, we're going to talk about the truth about William Plecker versus the pseudo-aboriginals. Again, we're going to talk about the truth about the life and work of William Plecker versus what the pseudo-aboriginals say about him, all right? And when I do say pseudo-aboriginals, I mean that we're going to look a little further, and I'm going to show you guys that that term was coined by none other than William Plecker. He called Black Indians, family, pseudo-Indians. He called the Black people that was saying in Virginia that they were saying that they was Indians. He called them pseudo-Black Indians, all right? So we're going to talk about his legacy, not so much of his entire legacy as what he did as a doctor. He can be deemed as a wicked man, of course. We're just going to talk about what he did as far as his career is concerned, because this is the guy that Black indigenous, so-called Black indigenous, go to say that he changed up the records. And he did change up the records. And we're going to show what location did he change up the records. Only in Virginia, right? Only in Virginia, family. It wasn't a national thing. He changed the records of birth certificates, marriage certificates, and we're going to go into that a little further. Only in Virginia. It was not a national thing like the wannabe Black Aboriginals try to make us think, all right? So real quick, it's important. Anytime I talk about a particular ideology, I always like to state what the goal is, right? And it's pretty easy for me to state what the goal is. When you're dealing with Black Aboriginals, their only goal is to say that they're not African. That's it, by any means necessary, even if they mean stealing somebody else's culture. Again, the goal of Black Aboriginals is only to say that they are not African. That's it. They will not teach any culture. They're not going to teach any language. They can't point to any place or territory in the United States that they deem as sacred. It won't happen. They don't have any sacred lakes. They don't have any sacred ponds or water. They don't have any ceremonial dances to give you, any ceremonial dances to teach you, no customs to teach you, nothing. No writing system, nothing. They only going to go through on their laptop making videos to say that they're not African, period. It just pretty much sums up to that. I mean, I can't stress it anymore. That's it. That's all you're going to see. That's all they're going to have. And when you look at these settlers, right, because they give you half of the information. When you look at the explorers, whether it be Italian or British or Spaniards or French, when they came to the Americas, they went to Central, South, and the islands, and they pointed out those people as Black. Those are the people they identified as being Black, and that's my position. The people that they identified as being Black was not those that live in the United States. That's not it, family. They're going to try to make us believe that, but that's not true. There were no Black tribes in the United States, period, point blank. Only in 2 locations, I will say. They have records of Black indigenous being in what we call the southern territory of California, and in what we call Florida today, family, South Florida. All of this is Indian crap from you being from New York and Michigan and Illinois and Montana and Washington State and Oregon is hogwash. I said it before. How can Blacks be indigenous when it was a Haitian that found Chicago? brother way from Haiti had to find Chicago. You understand? That's why it was the migration of Blacks from the South to the North. You know, our people we haven't been in these cities. Again, let me say this about myself real quick. I self-identify as a Black American. To be more specific, a Black United States American. I'm from Michigan. I'm a Detroiter. Even the city of Detroit, which I'm from, where I love, right? This is my home. This is my city. Black people haven't been here for over 150 years, family. We all migrated here from the South. My family is from the South, Alabama, Mississippi, and Texas. Our families migrate from the South to the North, which is ironic because these are the same places that these so-called slave ships that never happened. This is where they hit the Carolinas, the Floridas, and Alabama. Shout out to Cujo Lewis, Akashila Lewis, who was the last African slave to make it to the United States. He ported in through Alabama. So, yeah, I'm going to bring that out. Different story for a different day. So, I do not self-identify as a Hebrew Israelite. I do not self-identify as an Indian or indigenous American. I do not self-identify as a Moor. I do self-identify as a Black American. And to be more specific, a Black United States American. Who I will admit that we have a mixed lineage. And when I mean lineage, I mean line. All black people are not the very same because our women did not control their own bodies in this nation. For at least a 200-year period, our women did not control their own bodies. And we know that they were subject to the Irish who came later and acquired plantations. And then they are also subject to the British and the French and the Spaniards, right? So we have a mixed seed in our people. We black on the outside, not on the inside. And we're going to speak about that a lot on this particular video because when we go into Plecker, and I always say we are a mixed seed, I get a little pushback. But when you see the amount of Malutos that was on record, you'll see what I'm actually talking about, right? Also, real quick, I want to bring this out. This was drafted by Real Black Consciousness Forum. This is what I call the white supremacy chart, right? This is the reality for those of us that live in the Western world. I would not say this is a global policy. This is the Western world, right? When you look at the white supremacy chart in the Western world, we see that the white man is definitely on top. He respects the yellow man or the Asian man second. He shows a little less more respect before the light brown people, the sand people, right? What you call the Arab world, the Middle Eastern world. And then he have underneath that is the brown man, which is the Hispanics, the Puerto Ricans, the Hispanics, right? In this geography as far as the Western world is concerned. Then you have the red man, right? Which is the Indians, the indigenous. And then at the very bottom of the chart, you have the black man. We have black people, right? So this is the reality for the, I coined this the white supremacy chart. Of course, this was created by Real Black Consciousness Forum channel. The purpose of this chart is to just bring a reality to our people. No matter what ideology that you switch around, because sometimes when I self-identify as black, somebody with an ideology will be like, well, I'm really Hebrew Israelite, or we really Moors, or it's like or we Indians all of a sudden. It's like a weird dynamic that our people think in their mind that just because they call themselves something different than black is going to put them somewhere else on the chart, and it will not. It just won't, family. I mean, you could cut the bullshit with all these ideologies. It doesn't matter. All right? So if you're going to get on the comment box and say, oh, well, black means this in law and this and that, and you're really whatever you call yourself, come back to the chart or show me a chart that you created yourself and show us the place of our people on that chart in the Western world. How about we start doing that? Because once we come to grips that no matter what you call yourself, you're going to be at the bottom of this white supremacy chart in the Western world, it doesn't fucking matter, bro. It don't matter, all right? So today's show, we're going to talk about William Plecker. And the source I have in front of me is the Wikipedia. And we're going to go real quick about who he is and where he's from, all right? Then we're going to take it a little further from there. Now, William Ashby Plecker was an American physician and public health advocate who was the first registrar of Virginia's Bureau of Vital Statistics, serving from 1912 to 1946. He was a leader of the Anglo-Saxon Clubs of America, a white supremacist organization founded in Richmond, Virginia in 1922. He drafted and lobbied for the passage of the first Racial Integrity Act of 1924. By Virginia legislator, it was institutionalized the one-drop rule, which means if you got one drop of black blood, you're black, meaning African, right? Now, for the sake of this video, we're going to act like the indigenous community is correct. Everybody is black, and we're going to go over the information. You're going to see it. It won't fit. So everybody's black. All the Cherokees is black. The Iroquois is black. The Powhatan tribes is black. The Chickasaw, the Choctaw, everybody black. All right, we're gonna see if the information fits with the everybody is black notion, and nobody is there's not a heavy black African population. All right, so we're gonna scroll down a little bit further. We're gonna talk about again. This is a Wikipedia as a source. You can look it up on your free time and read its entire bio if you like. I'm just going to drop down to the career, all right? Plecker settled in Hampton, Virginia in 1892, and before his mother's death in 1915, he worked with women of all races and became known for his active interest in obstetrics and public health issues. Plecker educated midwives, invented a home incubator, and prescribed home remedies for infants. His efforts are credited with an almost 50% decline in birthing deaths for black mothers. Plecker became a public health officer for Elizabeth City County in 1902. All right, he started. It's finna get deep. In 1912, Plecker became the first registrar of Virginia's newly created Bureau of Vital Statistics, a position he held until 1946. And avowed white supremacist and advocate of the eugenics, he became a leader of the Anglo-Saxon Clubs of America in 1922. He wanted to prevent miscegenation or marriage between races, and he also thought that a decreasing number of mulattoes, as classified in the census, were that more of them were passing as white. Let's stop. Right? Let's build on that. The thing that Plecker wanted to do was purify the white race. Now, I always said that blacks in America is mixed-seeded people. They shoot that notion down, right? Again, when the English settlers, when the European settlers in period, when they got to this land, they came in ships with no wives. The families did not come to later, family. They did not come to later. As a matter of fact, this whole notion that all the indigenous people were black and somehow it was a switcheroo and we became African American, that style of colonization is called blackbirding. I want you to look that up. Look up the historic term of blackbirding. That's when European settlers come to your land and do a switcheroo on you. Not to be facetious, because it happened in South Asia. You gotta be you gotta be real feeble-minded. You gotta be like almost like idiots for that to actually happen. I mean, I just can't think of a better word. But again, if you listen to the Fraud Callaways, the A1, the Thief Holidays, if you kind of listen closely, the colonization technique that they're accusing the United States or the European settlers of having is called blackbirding. I want you to guys look that up, all right? Before I get too ahead of myself, I'm going to double back real quick. I just want to make this point. And he also thought that a decreasing number of mulattoes, as classified in the census, that means the previous censuses, right, meant that more of them were passing as white. I want you to understand the mentality that this man was trying to do. He was trying to keep the white race pure. In other words, out of the state of Virginia, he's over the division that keep hold and keep place of the statistics. He's noticing every year the number of mulattoes is dropping down. And he's trying to figure out, well, what's happening to this pool of people? He was afraid that those pool of people were just passing as white people, family. It had nothing to do. This whole big plot about him turning everybody from Indian to black to try to hide some identity in this paper genocide and whatever the case may be is bullshit. In other words, if you have a culture, I can call you whatever I want. That's not going to change your culture. I can go right now and take over Canada and turn every Canadian. I can start calling them Moroccans. Guess what they're going to act like? They still going to have they're not going to take on the culture of Moroccans. They're going to be different than Moroccans because what? They're going to have a culture of Canadians. I don't care what you call them. That's what I try to get the black community to understand. If you're an Aboriginal, that's cool. If they mislabeled you, that's cool. But you should still have, where's your culture at? You mean to tell me that the paper was so strong that when they wrote that shit on the paper, it stopped you from having ceremonies? Huh? It stopped you from speaking your language. Like, what happened to your culture as a native then? This was just on paper. I could call Mexicans right now. We can all go down to Home Depot. Pardon this expression. I'm not trying to be facetious. We can go down to Home Depot, pick up a group of Mexicans. We can start calling them Nigerians tomorrow. Will that change their culture by us calling them Nigerians? Fuck no. But I'm going to keep it pushing, right? Different story for a different day. I'm going to keep it going. But like I was saying earlier, family, this term is called blackbirding, right? This is what the black aboriginals, they're trying to sneak that into your and I want you to get ahead of it. Look up the term blackbirding, and then you'll see exactly what I'm talking about, all right? That's what they're accusing these guys of, blackbirding. And we know that not happened. We know that slavery was just as horrendous as our people told us it was. The Europeans never said slavery was bad. They talked very little about it in their public education. It was the greats like Elijah Muhammad and the Marcus Garveys of the world that came along and really taught us about what slavery really was. We didn't know that before then. All right. So we're going to drop down a little bit more. But yeah, William Plecker, he was the issue that he wanted to keep purity in his race. This is what the whole changing of the birth certificates and marriage certificate was. He wanted to keep the race pure, family. The white race pure. And in order to do that, mulattoes was passing as white and they was marrying whites. And the back door to marry whites was saying that you were Indian. That was the back door. That was the back door that a lot of our people they took. So we're going to keep on reading. With the help of John Powell and Ernest Cox, Plecker drafted and the state legislature passed the Racial Integrity Act of 1924. It recognized only two races, white and colored, which is quote unquote black. It essentially incorporated the one-drop rule, classifying any individual with any amount of African ancestry as colored. This went beyond existing laws, which had classified persons who had 1/16 or less black ancestry as white. Let's dig into this one-drop rule real quick so we can have some clarity on exactly what's going on historically, right? We're gonna stick with Wikipedia. The one-drop rule is a social and legal principle of racial classification that was historically prominent in the United States in the 20th century. It asserted that any person with even one ancestor of sub-Saharan African ancestry, quote unquote, one drop of black blood, is considered black, Negro, or colored in historical terms. But check it out. What does it say? Prominent in the United States in what? The 20th century. That's Plecker. That's what we do today, family. We don't do biracial children in our community. Halle Berry is what? Black. Mariah Carey is what? Black. Barack Obama is what? Black. Oprah Winfrey is what? She's black. She got two parents. Watch this. The legal concept of the one-drop rule does not exist outside of the United States. Now, that goes back to what I put up the chart. What did I say the chart exists at? In the Western world. This is the white supremacy chart in the what? The Western world. It does not happen like this globally, all right? But watch this. Let's go on to the Native Americans. We're still on Wikipedia. In the early colonial years, children born of one indigenous and one non-native parent usually had a white father and an indigenous mother. Well, why do they normally have that? Why do it always say? The English settlers came off those boats. They did not, family. They did not break any wives. Those boats had all males on those ships coming from Europe, to be more specific, British, Portuguese, and those Spaniards and those French ships, all males. They did not bring their families until later. When they had the wars, and it was like one war in particular, I'm gonna get that noted for you. When the Europeans used to fight against the Native Americans in war, they popped those men. They keep them women and keep them kids. That's how that happened. Drop down real quick. As many Native American tribes had matrilineal kinship systems, they considered the children to be born to the mother's family and clan. If they were raised in the culture, they would be considered the members of the community. In other words, in order for you to be a Cherokee, you only had to sleep with a woman. The woman in their culture, the woman decides what we know in reality. The man has the seed, the semen line. That's a lineal line, but for their tribal system, right? This is their tribal system. All you have to be considered Cherokee, Choctaw, Yamasee, Iroquois. You just had to be a descendant of a mother that was already in the clan. That's why you hear the term in the black community, oh, my grandmama said she was Indian, so that makes everybody Indian. That would be effect. White folks didn't do that right there if you had what they call black African blood. What is black blood? Sub-Saharan African ancestry, all right? Now, let's go back to the other slide, and we're going to drop down, and I'm going to close it out, right? Give me 1 second. In 1967, the United States Supreme Court invalidated the law in Loving versus Virginia. A movie was made about that family, and I'm going to show you it was a movie that came out on the big screen, and I'm going to show you what movie that was talking about the work of Plecker in Virginia. In particular, Plecker resented African Americans who passed as Native Americans. And he came to firmly believe that the state's Native Americans had been mongrelized with its African American population. In fact, since shortly after the Civil War, Native Americans from all over the county had been brought to the Hampton area to be educated with blacks, and some of them had also married blacks. Although Hampton's Indian schools had closed down as racial discrimination against Native Americans and the eugenics movement both grew in the state, Plecker refused to recognize the fact that many mixed-race Virginia Indians had maintained their culture and identity as Native Americans over the century despite economic assimilation. Now, I think it's fair that I read that part over again, family. Hold up, real quick. I'm gonna go back over that first. I'm gonna go back over the paragraph. In particular, Plecker resented African Americans who passed as Native Americans, and he came to firmly believe that the state's Native Americans had been mixed up with this African American population. All right, let's stop a second. We got to dig into that. First of all, first things first. What's passing? Right? Let's identify that word passing. What does passing mean? In other words, let's take it to the continent. Can the Ashanti pass for a Fulani? Can a Fulani pass for a Mandingo? Can a Mandingo pass for a Yoruba? No, we don't call that passing. You know why? They are black people. That's not called passing. Passing in America is when one ethnic group can pass and look like somebody else. Where does that come from? Intermixing with each other. Right? It comes from intermixing with each other. Now check this out. If you look at the second part, it says he came to firmly believe that the Native Americans had been mixing with the African American population. What does that mean? If they all look the same? What is mixing if you all look the same? I'm asking a question. Drop something in the comment box. Again, for my Afrocentric brothers, I'm saying this. What is mixing when the tribe of Ashanti is marrying somebody from a tribe of Aruba? Do you call that mixing? No. It's not called mixing. They all look the same. For my Hebrew Israelite brothers that may be listening, when somebody from the tribe of Judah marries somebody from the tribe of Gad, is that mixing? No, they all the same. They can't pass. They don't pass. You don't say a person from the tribe of Benjamin is passing for somebody that's a Levite. They all from the same. They all the same people, bro. They don't pass. They are who they are. Well, let's take a look. Let me. I don't want to make no shit up. I don't want y'all to think I'm making it up. Let's see what passing is. Passing racial identity. Racial passing occurs when a person classified as a member of one racial group is accepted as a member of a racial group other than their own. Historically, the term has been used primarily in the United States to describe a person of color or multiracial ancestry who has assimilated into the white majority during times when legal and social conventions of hypo descent classified the person as a minority. Let me drop down a little bit. Let me get an example. In the United States, the first example, passing for whites. What does passing for whites mean? To fully understand how African American people pass as white, one must acknowledge the rape of the slave women at the hands of the plantation owner. Let's stop a second. What do I always say I classify black Americans as? Mixed city people. I say it all the time, man. They say that. I say it all the time. People shoot that shit down. That's who we are as blacks in the United States. Our lineage is all mixed up. We're all black on the outside, inside a little different. Semen line, seed line, different. Let me keep going on. Although anti-miscegenation laws outlawing racial intermarriage existed in America as early as what? 1664, that's the black codes before the black codes. There were no laws preventing the rape of enslaved women. For generations, enslaved black mothers bore mixed race children who were deemed mulattoes, quadrones, and even hexacardones based on the percentage of what? White blood. One last paragraph, then we're going to keep it pushing. Although the aforementioned mixed race, people were often half white or more. Institutions of hypo descent in the 20th century, one drop rule, they go Plecker again, classified them as black and therefore inferior, particularly after slavery became a racial caste. Hey, man, I can't say it over and over and over. I'm gonna drop this one last, I'm gonna finish it out, then I'm gonna go back to the other slide. Because I don't want to hold you long, family. But I got to get this Plecker thing right, man. I got to shoot that bullshit down that he only did it, right? Their case, the black indigenous, is he changed it up to hide your identity because you really was Indian. Like somebody changed some paperwork on you can stop you from being an Indian. Again, I can call the tribe of Ashanti whatever the fuck I want. They still going to have customs and language and ceremonies that's going to separate them as the tribe of Ashanti. Again, West African black tribes, all of them look alike. But what separates one from the other? Their culture. The Yoruba have different culture than the Ashanti. Period. The Mandingos have different culture than the Zulu. Culture separates you. So if you're an indigenous black to the United States, when the Africans came over and they met, well, who got whose culture? Whose culture do you have? Those that's on this channel know I say that black American is a new culture. Our culture is hip hop, jazz, Langston Hughes, Def Comedy Jam, Maya Angelou, James Brown, Chuck Berry. This is black American culture, man. Well, that's the culture that we have as Africans crossing over, mixing up through slavery, mixing up with some of the natives, and boom, you have us, a new species. If you are the species that already been here, well, where's your culture? Your shit should be different than mine. Where's yours at? I'm going to finish it out. We're going to keep it pushing. Plecker ordered state agencies to reclassify most citizens who claim American Indian as colored. Although many Virginia Native Americans continue to live in their communities as maintain their tribal practices. I got to stop. I got to say this before I lose this thought. All right, check it out. If everybody is black, right? Dig that. If everybody is black, and then you have let me back up. Let me see what it says. Although many Virginia natives continue to live. All right. Check it out. So if everybody is black, as far as the native is concerned, well, somebody had to explain to me what is the one drop rule all of a sudden. Because the Indians was black in the beginning. How does the one drop rule affect Native Americans when everybody is black? The one drop rule was for you to be aware of what type of blood, African blood. But if the Indians, according to A1, if the Indians, the Native Americans, the indigenous black look like the cast of Roots, well, everybody is black. So that means any type of marital relationship with Indians and whites would have been labeled as black, but it wasn't true. It never happened, family. Critical thinking skills now. It's time for critical thinking skills at this point. Again, you have to explain to me what is the one drop rule then. If I'm saying it this way, if the original Cherokees were black, the Yamasees and the Iroquois and the Choctaws and the Chickasaw, everybody's black. Well, what is the one drop rule? Explain to me that. What is the one drop rule? All right. I'm going to go down to the very bottom and then we're going to close it out. No. I'm going to read this real quick. Specifically, Plecker ordered state agencies to reclassify certain families whom he identified by surname. because he decided that they were trying to pass and evade segregation. This remained legal in the South until federal legislation overturned it in the 1960s. In addition, Plecker lobbied the U.S. Census Bureau to drop the category mulatto, and they have, in the 1930s and later censuses. This deprived mixed-race people of recognition of their identity, and it also contributed to a binary culture of hypodescent, in which mixed-race persons were often classified as part of the group with the lower social status. One drop of black African blood and you black. They try to act like they shitted on what Plecker did. They did not. That's what we live in today. There's no such thing as biracial children no more. President Barack Obama showed us that. Black father, white mother. Back in the day, he would have been able to identify as a mulatto. Not no more. He's just black. So that Plecker, so with the work that Plecker done, don't act like it just went away. It's still what it is today. But the changing of Indian to black only happened in Virginia, period. It didn't happen anywhere else. I'm going to say it again. Only happened in the state of Virginia. It did not happen anywhere else. All right. And let's see what we got. Not until the 21st century did the federal census allow individuals to indicate more than one race or ethnic group in self-identification. Again, that particular source is on Wikipedia. You can use it. You can read it in its entirety. And I'm going to go to the next slide real quick. This is the video. This is the movie called Loving. This is the video that this movie was actually made out of a true story. White male, black woman. And now watch this. Black woman, white man. What used to happen in Virginia, this is what Plecker claimed was, once these children are born and they are considered mulatto, depending on how like that they was, they would be able to jump and say if they can pass as white, they was pass as white. But watch this. Being mulatto, they can pass as Indian. They can jump up and say, okay, I'm Indian now. The black people with, now watch this. The black people with the two black parents, they never pass as Indian. You could, like, how could you pass? You black. So what Plecker was going to do, he was going to cut out the middleman, which is mulatto. He's like, man, look, I'm not playing no more of this. Everybody is Indian shit. Everybody in Virginia, everybody, you either going to be white or you going to be black, period. Pick a side. And you know what? It's kind of like that today. The only middle ground that we have right now, we call them Hispanics. That's the middle ground in America right now. Yeah, family, I got another slide. Let me get it. I'm going to read it real quick. Give me a second. When you're looking at this slide I have in front of you now, family, what type of man is that? I'm finna do right now what the black indigenous people is accusing William Plecker of doing. And he actually did. Again, he's on record for changing Indians to black. All right? He's on record for doing that. And I'm going to have to bring up that information with the quote-unquote Mongolian Indians fought against that and they got their identity back. Not the quote-unquote blacks that said they was mixed into the bunch. But I'm just going to say this for conversation's sake. I'm saying this. Let's say that the Fraud Callaways of the world, the Thief Holidays and the Egg Ones, let's say that they're correct. Let's say that all black natives are Indians. Let's just say they were reclassified to being African American, right? So this individual on this slide that I have in front of you, we're going to classify him as African American too. You know what's going to be the difference? He's culturally from the tribe of Ashanti. This is a brother from the tribe of Ashanti. If I call him Chinese tomorrow, you know what's going to separate him from the Chinese people? His culture. They believe in circumcision. They believe in 7-day funerals. Right? They're not a patriarch, they're a matriarch. They have different designations of women in their society. They have what they call the queen mothers that sit in the seat of power. That's part of their culture. So my question to you, if you're Indian and Africans came over and the Africans mixed with the black indigenous people, well, who got whose culture? Well, who culture do the African brothers got? And who culture do you have? I don't never see you doing any ceremonial dances. Where your ceremonial dances at? Even if this brother on this photo, he's from the tribe of Ashanti. If I called him Chinese from now on and I changed his paperwork, I went back and changed his paperwork right now from Ashanti and all his children, I start calling them Chinese. His customs, his traditions is still going to be who he is, family. He's still going to do what Ashanti people do. You see what I'm saying? If you're the real Cherokee, well, where your customs at? Well, like, where your ceremonies like? Where your customs at? I'm looking at what's the difference between you and the African that came on the ship. If the African brother came on the ship in the 1700s and you've been here for thousands of years, somebody should have somebody else's culture. Well, who culture do you have? Don't give me this shit like all the public school system. Just nah, man. Because public school, listen, Europeans have placed schools up. In other words, even if we use the brother from Ashanti as an example, we talk about Nigeria, that could be deemed as what? Paper genocide. They didn't call themselves Nigerians. They didn't call themselves Ghanaians. They had their own tribes. No matter what the European settler called them and put on the map, they was who they was. They still had a culture. Why you don't have, if you guys, the black indigenous people are selling blackbirding to the people. That's what they're really doing. They're saying that they were blackbirded. We're saying that our people that were black were brought over from the Africas to the Americas. I'm out, family. I'm going to let y'all have it, family. I'm going to let y'all have it. This whole thing about William Pleckert, you from Michigan, and William Pleckert changed the thing around, and that's why your birth certificate ain't Indian and all that. Just be, if you Indian, dog, be Indian, folk. Just be, shit. You Indian, just be, because I tell you what, I can call them Mandingos, whatever I want to call them. They still gonna have a culture to carry on what they are. Remember, Dame said slavery didn't happen like we thought it happened. Nobody was getting their ass beat, according to Dame. Don't check me, go to his page, check him. Don't push it in my comment, but Dame said nobody was getting their ass beat. I thought it was what they said it was, but he said it didn't happen like that. When you got on the auction block, according to that man, he said it didn't happen like that. Peace and Black Power, family. I'm out, man. Thank you guys so much for listening. Till next time. Real Black Content.